bucka. Haha. You know the deal.
The next thing we're going to talk about with fractions is adding and subtracting mixed numbers and improper fractions. There are a couple of different ways to deal with questions like these, but I'm going to show one of those ways here. If you're able to come up with another way, or if you think you recognize another way to do it while we're doing these examples, then I encourage you to investigate other ways to add and subtract mixed numbers. But again, I'm just going to show one way here, and I'm not going to be using diagrams in this lesson. Now that we've talked about how to add and subtract fractions, the rules that we've talked about apply here. So first thing that we need to deal with here is the fact that we have these mixed numbers. When I'm dealing with a question with fractions, I personally just like to have fractions in the question. So that means that we need to write each of these mixed numbers, or any whole number, mixed numbers or whole numbers, have to be written as fractions. And if you recall from the video on improper fractions and mixed numbers, to change a mixed number to an improper fraction, we multiply the denominator times the whole number, and then add the numerator to get the numerator of our improper fraction. The denominator stays the same. So to get that 7 there, I did 3 times 2 and then plus 1. So here we multiply 3 times 3 and then add 1, which gives us 10. And now we have a case where we have the same denominator. So we know now that we can simply add the numerators and the denominator stays the same. So we end up with 17 over 3. Well, usually we want to leave our final answer as a mixed number instead of an improper fraction. So remember, a fraction is a division question. This question here is 17 divided by 3. How many 3's fit into 17? We can fit 5, and then we're at 15. So the remainder is 2, and the denominator stays the same. So our final answer here is 5 wholes and 2/3 when we add 2 1/3 plus 3 1/3. So let's take a look at another example here. I've got 1 3/4 and I'm adding 3 5/6. So again, my personal preference is if I have any question with fractions in it, I just want fractions in the question, so I need to rewrite those as improper fractions. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7, so 1 3/4 is 7 over 4. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 5 is 23. So our second fraction as an improper fraction is 23 over 6. Now, here we have a case where our denominators are different. So we have a denominator of 4 and a denominator of 6. So we're looking for multiples of 4 that are also multiples of 6, and we're looking for the lowest common multiple. So if we count in 4's, and if we count in 6's, what's the first number we get to? Well, the first one is 12. There are others, but that's the lowest one. So we need to change these denominators so that they're 12. If we're going to change the denominator, we have to change the numerator, otherwise it's not the same. So mathematically, how do we change 4 to 12? We only write equivalent fractions by multiplying or dividing. In this case, we're probably going to multiply. We're going to multiply by 3, so that's what we have to do to our numerator as well. So we get 21. And then for the next one, to change 6 to 12, we have to multiply it by 2. So I have to do the same thing to 23. And then when we add these two fractions together, we're adding the numerators. The denominator stays the same. So we get 67 over 12. And then we want to change that to our mixed number. The division question there is 67 divided by 12. We can fit 5 12s into 67. That takes us to 60. So our remainder is 7. Now, if you looked at the last example and the final answer that we got. You might have suspected that there was another way to add those mixed numbers, and there is another way to add those mixed numbers. And if you suspected that there was another way and you thought you had figured out what it was, see if that worked with this example. From the original question to our final answer. And if it didn't, see if you can figure out why. If you're not sure what another way is to add these, or to add these, this way that we've done it here will work every time. You change your mixed numbers to improper fractions. Make sure the denominators are the same. If they aren't, you have to make them common denominators. And then we add the numerator and leave the denominator the same. And then if we end up with an improper fraction, we change it to a mixed number. Now that we've seen a couple of examples of how to add mixed numbers, let's try a few. So to finish off our lesson today, try these 3 questions yourself. Once again, the first thing you're going to want to do is change them to improper fractions. Then make the denominators the same, add the numerators, leave the denominators the same. The last one is actually a subtraction question, but remember the rules for subtraction are exactly the same. If you're able to do that, congratulations. You now understand one way to add and subtract mixed numbers.